Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to show you the difference between using a ScotchBrite pad to polish a frame and then sandpaper to polish the frame. This is I think it's a 2022 MONGOOSE Fireball. It used to be black. I've already stripped the paint off and used ScotchBrite WD-40, and it came out like a satin finish, a satin polish. So I'm going to pull the bike apart now. So basically I used like a WD-40 spray. That's a liquid paint stripper which worked really well, and that's the ScotchBrite pads I used to prepare the aluminium. So I'll pull the bike apart now. Now the idea is you're trying to get the frame or the aluminium as flat as possible. If there's even the slightest bumps on it, you will find that the frame will not shine. It'll appear to shine, but it won't be as polished as you want it to be. And as you can see, it's like a satin finish. So I'm going to use 800 Wet and Dry first with a WD-40 type of spray just to lubricate the sandpaper. You want to keep lots of liquid on the sandpaper. You don't want it drying out and gumming up. So I'll spray a bit on the paper. This is just a version of WD-40. I'll spray a bit on the frame and a bit on the paper. And you can actually hear how rough the frame is, even though it's polished. So even though the bike looked like it was polished when it was together, I'm going to actually sand all of that shine off and bring it back to a flat finish, a satin finish. As I told you before, the frame was black, and black frames just don't look too good. Now when you're doing this, you've got to wear really old clothes. Your hands, you can wear gloves, but they tear, and when they tear it's just a pain in the neck. So I'm just going to bite the bullet and get dirty hands, but you've got to wear dirty old clothes. It's really important to put a cover over whatever you're putting it on, because you don't want to scratch the frame as you're sanding it. Now see how it looked with 800 sandpaper. It's got a satin finish and it feels quite smooth. Now I'm going to use 1500 grit Wet and Dry, and I'm just going to do the same process. I'm going to use that WD type spray, and I'm going to sand for another half an hour. Now you can hear the difference in sound. When I used the 800, the frame had quite a loud scratching sound, and now I'm using 1500. The sound is a lot smoother because the frame itself is a lot smoother, and I'm taking it up to 1500, which is, I believe, enough to polish it. Keep putting lots of that WD spray on the sandpaper. It's just going to go black and horrible, but it's just part of the job. And it really is worth doing. You know, getting the paint off is a pain in the neck. It's just how it is. Sanding the frame with the sandpaper, you know, it's just a pain in the neck, but you still got to do it. But once you start polishing, you realize how quickly the frame polishes. You could probably sand the frame and polish it in probably 2 hours, and you got a shiny bike. Try not to sand the welds. You want to keep them nice and weld looking. So this is how it looks now with a satin finish, and it almost has a shine to it from the 1500 grit sandpaper. So this is Autosol metal polish. They have an aluminium version, I believe, too, for about $13. But I just used this. Worked alright. Now it's going to go really black. But the transformation from the bright or the white, I think they call it white silver. The transformation from the bright aluminium to the polished aluminium is quite amazing. You don't think it's happening because it's hidden under the black. I have 17 fractures in my shoulder that's healing, and I'm not able to put too much pressure on this because of my shoulder. Pops out of joint from a last mountain bike crash, big get off. So you can see here that it's starting to happen, and I've hardly done anything. So the quicker you do it, the faster it goes, obviously. There's a lot of nibs on the frame that hit your fingers, so for the cable ties, they're a pain in the neck, but you just got to work around them. You got no choice. Put a lot of polish on the cloth in different positions. One spot just rubs off. If you put it in different places like that, you could actually get better coverage. Now you'll see the frame get darker and darker as the polish cuts through the oxidization or the top surface. It actually looks like I'm painting black on, but you will be surprised in a couple of seconds how polished it actually really is after that very short period. I'm in Queensland, Australia at the moment, and we've just had a cyclone plus a heat wave, and doing this was incredibly difficult. The camera kept shutting down because it was about 40 degrees in the spare room. Sweat was dropping onto the frame. It was really hard and really annoying. But if you push through the problems, eventually you'll start getting a finish like this. And as you can see, it's gone dark now. So I'm going to get a cloth in a moment. I'm going to wipe that top tube off, and you can actually see what happened after that very little work that I was doing. It actually looks like I'm brushing or rubbing black color on, but that's I guess that's a very small amount of aluminium being removed. Okay, so let's have a look after this very short time how it looks. Once you remove the excess polish, you get a surprise, because with very little effort you suddenly have an extremely polished tube, as you can see. And if you compare the top tube to the bottom tube, you can see that we have one satin finish and one polished finish. So the cloth now is completely impregnated with polish, and I've basically polished most of the bike, and I'm just going around now getting any last little bits that I can see. It's really important to have a thick cover over the table you're working on, because the slightest touch of anything will scratch it now. Seriously, the effort is worth it, because once you've taken the paint off and polished the bike, it looks $1 million. As you can see by my hands how black it is, but it just spray WD-40 on your hands and it just comes straight off. Alright, so I've just about finished, so going to prop the frame up in a second, just so you can see what it looks like. And this was about 1 hour. This video has been edited quite heavily. So this is how the frame looks now once I've gone over the whole thing. You can still see slight imperfections, but you'd have to sand the frame right back. So I'm going to put the bike back together now, and you can see what the bike looks like once the frame has been polished. So the sticker kit's $120. So I'm going to buy a printer and print my own stickers. Thanks for sticking by, and if you give it a go, it's well worth it. And so thank you for watching. Take care.